You know what time it is when you hear my voice. I eat bull tarts for breakfast. Bitcoin is currently at 77,000 US dollars and some change. There's a lot of greed in the air, and bull tarts are extremely excited, like it's the second coming of Jesus Christ. This is me at the Pika top back in July 2025. Check this. We're forming a megaphone, yeah? And a megaphone is bearish. Okay, it's actually bearish. It's not bullish, guys. We could do something like this, but we head up higher, and then something like this, guys. Yeah, and that's all she wrote. I freestyled this. It ended at 85,000 US dollars and some change. I can't make this up. As most of you are aware of, ladies and gentlemen, we've made a comparison between this cycle and 2022. There's other cycles that we could do the same with, but it correlates the most, maybe 80% to 2022. If we zoom out, you can see that we had a dead cat bounce over here and a dead cat bounce over here, followed by an up thrust right over here, 125,000 US dollars and some change. Likewise, the same thing happened here at 69,000 US dollars and some change. We headed down because there were no more buyers left. We had a selling climax, exactly the same here. We headed down, there were no more buyers left. We formed distribution, followed by an up thrust and a pattern right over here. Likewise, the same thing happened here, selling climax, distribution, followed by selling climax. As a result, in 2022, we formed a diagonal pattern, and it took a few days before we finally broke down. 2026 was the same story. We formed a diagonal pattern, and then we finally broke down, followed by further selling climax. Likewise, the same thing happened over here. If you look at the volume, both of them show exactly the same tendencies. We got to this stage, ladies and gentlemen, and we were given a curveball. We thought it was going to play out the same as the last cycle. We were going to form an up thrust, and then finally we're going to break down. That wasn't the case, and what actually happened is the bulltards came back. The father of bulltards decided to buy Bitcoin. Normally he's a top indicator. Will this time be different? So I decided that this is invalidated, and as a result I'll go to the weekly and show you how it looks. It's definitely invalidated. Some of you struggle with pattern recognition. From the very bottom to the wick, it's gone up by 32%. From the very bottom to the wick, we went all the way up to 43%. We still have some room to go. In 2026, we went sideways and then finally broke out. In 2022, we went sideways and then we broke out. I'm expecting the same thing to happen. I'm gonna go on the lower time frame to the 4-hourly time frame. There's a trend line that we all need to pay attention to. There's a steep trend line from here all the way to here, ladies and gentlemen. And when it breaks down, then the up thrust is almost complete. We are very close to kissing this. Now, we've done this a few times. We bounced once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5, and possibly 6 to get to our previous selling climax, which was right over here. Bitcoin so far is doing exactly what it does in a bear market, but just to drill it into you and make you understand that this is just doing the same thing that we've seen time and time again. It's broken past the 200 EMA. This period right over here broken past the 200 EMA. This is an up thrust. We've done this in previous cycles, ladies and gentlemen. We've done it in the previous bear market right over here, where we broke the 100 EMA and then followed by the 200 EMA. Everyone got super bullish, thought it was the second coming of Jesus Christ. The bulls are exceptionally happy because we've broken this trend line. This trend line right over here. We were meant to break down into this trend line, but we haven't, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it on the algorithmic chart, and I'm going to show you on the log chart as well. Same thing has happened. They got very excited, and it's broken out of this log chart. It doesn't mean anything, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let them gaslight you. They love to gaslight people. They love to. We done the same thing. We literally done the same thing, and you know what happened? We still dropped a massive percentage, a huge percentage. So we broke out, and then we dropped a further 27%. Likewise, in the previous cycle, the exact same thing happened, ladies and gentlemen. There was a trend line right over here. Everyone got uber excited. It broke out, and guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, Oh my, it dropped a further 50%. 50%. We have a major problem. And my major problem is everyone around us is way too bearish. They're very bearish at the bottoms and they're bullish at the tops. But for some reason, funding rates are the most negative we've seen since 2023. And market makers, Jane Street, they pay attention to this. And I know every bear tard out there is adding to their positions. And that's what causes a cascade to the upside. If the bear tards don't behave, we might go further than 41%. From here to here was around 41%. So 84,000 US dollars and some change. I will be shorting, ladies and gentlemen. But I need these bear tards to get liquidated first. I don't want to delve into this too much. But you know my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I spoke about this long time ago. I told you a very long time ago what might happen. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have to pay for our sins. We really do. I know some of you really hate Bitcoin dominance, but like I predicted, it's going to head up higher. I did say last episode, is it going to go up during a Bitcoin rally or a Bitcoin dump? It looks like it's going up during a Bitcoin rally. We did also say many times that we're going to fill the wick. This is Bitcoin dominance divided by total 3, and we did say it's going to fill the wick to around 0.27. This is the monthly, and this is pure data. Almost every single monthly candle on this chart has been red. April 2025, April 1st, 2023, red candle again. April 2022, another red monthly candle. April 2021 was an exception. It had a fat green candle. April 2020, another red candle. April 2029, another red candle. And you know what I'm going to say? Red candle again. 2018, red candle. Every single April, barring one event, we've had a red monthly candle, and altcoins bled into Bitcoin. USDT dominance. There's a misconception that USDT dominance is going to peak right over here. You do understand that the money supply expands in crypto. You do understand this. So we could technically go even higher. Right now, we're sweeping the lows, and this is an inverse correlation. Every time USDT goes up, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin goes down. Simple as that. People move their Bitcoin into USDT, and then finally they move their USDT into their banks, and it burns that value. And as of now, we're sweeping the lows once again. Is this the ultimate peak before further downturn? I've been trading stocks, ladies and gentlemen, while everyone else in crypto, all the crypto broilers have just been sitting there twiddling their thumbs. I've actually been trading stocks. S&P 500 has done something incredible. This is the monthly for the S&P 500. Made all-time new highs, ladies and gentlemen. There's still a lot of greed in the air. Now I was being very modest in my analogy. It was my fault because I was being too bullish. It was actually my fault. I was sincerely being too bullish comparing this cycle to 2022. My bad. Apologies. I should have been more bearish. Operation Epic Fury started in February 2027. The Russia and Ukraine war started in 2025 February. I was expecting a bear market rally or a counter trend rally as such. That never happened. We formed an all-time new high. We're sweeping the highs. Now the last time we swept the highs, well, we have to look back. This is 2018, ladies and gentlemen, and in the first quarter of 2018, we went down by a mere pathetic 11%. Then we swept the highs. Then we had a fairly decent pullback. That was a reset. I know most of you are aware of GFC. The first quarter, we had a pathetic pullback in 2007, 7%. Then we swept the highs, had another pathetic downturn of 11%. And then finally, we swept the highs again 3 times. And then we went down by a whopping 60%. In real terms, in real actual terms, if you divide this by gold, we actually went down by 86%. Same numbers as 1930s. Just for dubious speculation, we could probably, I hope it never happens, we could probably head back down and then head back up again, sweep the highs, head back down, and then finally break down. We could do that. I hope that never happens. And then we have the dot-com period. Now let's do the maths. We technically went sideways for roughly 475 days. We kept on sweeping the highs, but ultimately we went nowhere for 400 days. And then we had the biggest collapse we've ever seen. So far, the S&P 500 has technically gone pretty much nowhere for 177 days. If it continues for roughly a year, ladies and gentlemen, then we're gonna have bigger problems. So far, I believe that we're gonna continue to sweep the highs, and then we get our drawdown. Every one of you should be well educated and know that Bitcoin and crypto is not in some vacuum, some bubble. It's actually correlated to stocks. Every midterm election, the S&P 500 has a drawdown. And Bitcoin certainly has drawdowns. This time is no different. But you know what's so important now? In May, ladies and gentlemen, we normally see the pullbacks. This is the midterm election, and the green is also what happens after May. We have this period in May. We went sideways and then finally came down. And again in 2022, sideways and down. And finally, we're having an upthrust. Since 1978, there has been roughly 7 to 30% corrections after May. This is pure data. September, it went down 14%, May 14%, July 10%, July 20%, and so on and so on and so forth. May again and May again. Ethereum is no different to the previous bear market. I don't show you normal news. I don't show you none of that. None of that matters. All you need to know is patterns always repeat. We had an upthrust over here and an upthrust over here, followed by selling climax, followed by selling climax. We formed a pattern right over here. Exact same pattern was formed right over here. Then we formed an upthrust and we hurdled down a diagonal trend line right over here, diagonal trend line right over here. This was selling climax, finally selling climax. We said that this is invalidated. Instead, we are over here, ladies and gentlemen. We're comparing this period right over here to this period over here. It went up a massive 131%. I don't think it's going to do the same thing. I think we're going to continue to go up this bear flag and then finally break down into this lower area. I think technically we're playing the same thing that we did last cycle to finally make a higher low. If you notice the last capitulation event, it didn't even make a new lower low. I'm turning more and more bullish regarding Ethereum. Before I end, ladies and gentlemen, I've made it very clear to you, everyone on this channel, that 99% of all of these coins are just scams. They're just market makers giving that illusion that the market cap is actually this, when no one's really trading it except for market makers. So I want you all to be aware, so when the bull market does come, you don't fall for the same tricks again and again. And there's always a bull market somewhere. I've been trading different stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is still going to go up higher in my opinion. These are semiconductors. I know a lot of folks are saying that semiconductors are overbought at the moment, but this is Seagate. I think some of you are aware of Seagate. Are also trading SanDisk as well. Massive gains for this week. Huge gains, ladies and gentlemen. This is the daily and it's gone up by 23x. A lot of crypto bros want to really spread misinformation. There's always a bull market somewhere. These are regulated markets. I've been just simply DCAing into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and rotating some profits into traditional markets. If you want to really gain and have an edge and also make money during these turbulent times, join our private members. You won't regret it. See you in the next one. Peace.